The fire warms our faces. Rioja warms the heart. We sit. I am on the left, he is on the right. She is in the middle, warming head and tail on the she and the he. We sit in silence, in peace. Stories appear in the flames. We sit. Our heads turn away from the fire. He looks at she. She looks at he. They smile, sit, silence. Warm inside and out. The fire of he, she, and she. So today, let's sit, be warm inside and out as the she, he, and they sit and share. Welcome to Spoken Word Saturday.
Idle amid an idle's milieu. Here, reverie arrive. Revere a river here, and tumble unto her riparian slipstream. A royally pale pole's pitter-patter peters out. Mist-strewn quiescence reigns serene, for symphonic breezes busk no more o'er the mirror mere. Mill amidst fugacious dusk. Umbra becomes becoming, since its opaque cake's glazed greyness graces that paradisiacal place. Gaze amazed at indivisible invisibility. Captivating lights, silver slivers all fall, ale, fail, then surrender. Gregarious grass musters clustered fluorescence. Speckled hecklers, uncinnered beaks, pick and peck, pockmarked prey. Our darkening park's skeletal oak looks drawn, his every stretched branch a pencil-stenciled sketch. Two frond friends are dancing defiance, wilfully whirling a while. Wriggle-wiggly, woggle-waggly, twilight twins twist twixt twigs. The 1 year tenure over, recalcitrants relinquish a collective last grasp with reluctance. Chagrin wreathes otiose wraiths as they bid a lachrymose adieu. Deferential bows bow, while each of these leaves past their soil by date, both simultaneously snap and spiral to earth in an ephemeral funereal finale. Envision this fission. It fashions a numinous fusion when phantasmal fantasy marries variegated imagery.
She said she'd like a she shed, but not necessarily on the she shore. He said she could have her she shed, as long as it housed a little bit more. Because he said he'd like a he shed, as long as it was right next door. She said he could have his he shed, if hers could have a carpeted floor. We said we'll have an our shed, a his and hers, but not built out of straw. So we had our own wee shed, but each side with its own door. It's definitely a yin-yang shed. Hers relaxes to the core. His a tools and models shed, a shed built for two and not anymore. He loves his practical he shed, where he fixes things and plays. She loves her calming she shed, with feature colours and muted greys. They each love their our shed, because each has a space of their own. They both have made a haven shed. They'd have had it sooner, if only they'd known.
Late frost diamonds danced across the road to your birth. You arrived red, robust and vibrant, calling, not crying, expecting connection. Your eyes latched on, unquestioning. The most relaxed baby I've ever seen, announced the midwife as you slept on my shoulder, settled in chaos. Your internal weather was always temperate, your ocean Pacific, its waves unbroken and deliberate. Unperturbed Piscean sea eyes landing on shores of rolling wheatfield hair. You cartwheeled to school, spinning in joyous repetition, mathematical precision and acrobatic vision. At 4, you defied all health warnings, stewed fruit and purposively posted peas and grapes behind the radiator. When I am 11, I shall eat vegetables, you pronounced, with determined factuality. By 14, you were vegetarian, championing spinach and chickpeas, and policing the purchasing of sustainable palm oil-based peanut butter. You protest with the best, child of austerity and resistance. Research your opinions online and out of line. Third sister, the family diplomat, you learned conflict resolution fast and disdained to suffer teenage girl hair dye disasters, vodka on beaches or heels. You walk in footsteps of your own choosing, Doc Martin daughter flattening the earth, wading and straddling the mud of festivals. With deft confidence you erect tents in minutes, then watch the green man burn beneath Van Gogh stars, whilst whispered wishes smoke skyward. 15, poised and wise on the rising edge of life, you listen as the horizon calls and smile.
On Saturdays, we dress up tidy and ride to town with Rhys and Williams. Bus chock-a-block with children and shoppers, babies and baskets bouncing on laps. Chatter, clattering, a 2-ton cowl, till we passed the gasworks, our queue to stand up. We'd pour down the road into the market, a churning mass of heads and hats, to take our turn for personal service. We'd shop in Puddy's at the start of term and ring the bell above the door to choose a blouse or a Liberty bodice, eager to trace the police bob taking our payment, bringing us change, a wooden acrobat high on the ceiling. And later we take a stroll around Pew Brothers, meander through acres of plush interiors and courteous staff, like a stately home. To the library next, we'd climb the stairs carrying books drained of adventure, to the half-glass door, the polished oak counter, where, underneath, pink cardboard envelopes were filed in rows, little buff tickets tucked inside. The broadest smile, on time, no fine. My Saturday treat, deciphering dust jackets, scouring shelves, hunting excitement, and last of all, with pennies to spend, we'd cross over Vaughan Street to the tobacconist, racks of pipes and a dazzle of sweets, air stuffed with ready rub, crisp with barley sugar. And we'd buy a quarter of white powdered bonbons. And on the bus homeward, pocket bulging with tooth-searing saccharine, 3 borrowed books would balance on my knee, heavy with promise.
The twinkling of the night stars, a white feather falling, like a snowflake, a symbol, a date. Our hearts and minds travel back to a time when the future now had no space, yet the strings of memory sing as we recall. To heal, you must remember. It is hard sometimes to remember, for remembering reopens the wound, the scar that no one sees, but you know is there. Sometimes on certain days you feel marooned, even vulnerable and bare, for remembering is our memory that shows we still care. It is also a chance for recovery, for burdens to heal and repair. Love can be deeper than that scar, but remembrance will always be there. Go forward, do not let this mar your life and dreams elsewhere. Strength and vision helps your ordeal, but to remember is to heal.
Margaret looked across at her reflection. She was glad she put so much into stopping the rot. Margaret had no fine lines, no drooping mouth pulling her face down, and more important, with the right lift of the face, no aging jowls or baggy chins. Margaret enjoyed the online writers' circle. She herself wrote historical romances in which the heroine always swooned by chapter 3, and the hero, never who he seemed, rescued her from a barbaric father or a wicked uncle and turned out to be a titled gentleman. She had one of these arranged as a short story for tonight's group, a ragged girl abducted from her titled parents as a baby by gypsies and was discovered by a Lord Lieutenant while watering horses at the inn. Swooping her up, he carried her into another happy ending. Margaret went down to sort her computer out. Doing this online had its benefits. The laptop was propped up on boxes, so she looked up, elongating her neck. The lighting, just right, not harsh, but casting the right shadows. She was ready, so started the Zoom meeting. She was the first, and often ensured she was, so that she could practice her head tilt and movements while watching her performance on camera. It was as if she was on TV. Henry joined her. Margaret was attracted to Henry, not as a partner, she had no need of one of these, but as a useful other. Others made good companions if an occasion needed two, not one. He was a good man, easygoing, and prone to doing as he was told. An ideal other, in fact. If only he didn't keep writing poems about his beloved Joan. She'd been dead 2 years now, but whenever he could, he would move the conversation to Joan. Margaret had picked up enough to recognise the cues, so could usually steer him away from "my eternal love," which always made her feel sick. That sort of thing was fine in stories, but not in reality. "Good evening, Henry." "Margaret." "Colder than normal." "Outside, yes, but when one has a superior Worcester Bosch boiler with additional attachments, you do not feel the cold inside." "No, I suppose I have too many draughts." "More than likely, Henry. You need to keep on top of things." "Yes. Joan always ensured the boiler was serviced. Not done it since she moved on over. Tradition, her job, not right." Henry tailed off, and Margaret was practising moving her head to keep her neck stretched, so she missed most of it. Another face appeared, Mabel. Margaret always called her Marmalade Mabel on account of the similarities, her hair colour, of course, but also skin tone, clothes that didn't suit, and she was always peeling satsumas. "Good of you to join us, Mabel." "Thank you, Margaret. Henry, I'm looking forward again tonight. I have a small poem regarding my cat. I spend all my time now with Millie. We've quite a bond." "Yes." Margaret lifted her chin and smiled. Misreading the smile, maybe Mabel dashed on regarding the cat. 3 more joined, women from an indeterminate age and background. As far as Margaret was concerned, they were there to make up the numbers and to applaud Margaret for her work. "Well, we'll start," Margaret beamed. "Denise, you are the first this week." Margaret turned a cold smile on one of the indeterminates and closed down. 2 more indeterminates followed. Margaret practised her lines, so missed their contributions. Then it was her turn. She paused, looked at each in turn, smiled, and began in her best reading voice. She missed 2 of the indeterminates, smiled faintly, and looked down. The girl was rescued. Sabres clashed, the villain unmasked as a pretender to the woman's rightful inheritance, at which point someone sneezed loudly, more like an elephant's distress call than something human. Margaret stopped mid-sentence and looked at her audience one by one. Mabel had her cat on the lap, Satsuma in hand. The indeterminates appeared to be weeping into handkerchiefs. If it was not for her belief in her own ability, Margaret would not have mistaken the laughter behind the handkerchiefs for weeping at the plight of her heroine, but seeing the tears of laughter falling drove the women on into hysteria. Only Henry was straight-backed, eyes closed, to capture the mood of the piece. Margaret noted, regarding her other. "Who was that?" Margaret demanded, her TV performance ruined. No one dared answer. "Who was that?" Margaret repeated. "Who had such bad manners?" Now the indeterminates were openly laughing. Mabel grinned, then followed suit. This had never happened before. "Sorry, Margaret," coughed Mabel. "I'm sorry, but I can't stop." Margaret noticed Henry was unmoved. Sorry, I've just lost the thingamajig. Noticed that Henry was unmoved. "Henry," she called, muting everyone else so all became silent. "Henry!" Nothing. "Henry!" Margaret was desperate. Surely she could rely on her other. Henry startled. "Sorry, Margaret." Must have nodded off. "Have you finished another of your splendid stories? What a hero." "You were asleep." "No, Margaret. Resting my eyes in order to listen. Joan always said..." "Sod, Joan." "What?" "I said sod what Joan said." Tears filled her eyes. Her finest moment ruined. She pressed leave. The others, now left alone without Margaret, but unsure whether she was still with them, hiding in the miasma of the internet, asked, "Has she gone?" "Yes," said Mabel. "I say, your idea worked well." "I know. Margaret's dreary tales always have a line about the hero's polished boots carrying his sabre's reflection. So as soon as she said that, we started the Sniggers. Worked a treat. Really rattled her cage," glowed Denise. "And you, Henry," she went on. "A performance of a lifetime pretending to be asleep." No, I wasn't pretending. I have trouble sleeping since I lost Joan, but the sound of Margaret's stories always send me right off. One of the reasons I keep coming, actually." The women howled with laughter, then slowly left the best writing circle meeting ever. Sitting, looking at the blank screen, Margaret didn't know what went wrong. On reflection, she decided the group were rather uncouth and not up to her standard. Now everything is on Zoom. She knew she would find another group who would appreciate her talents and more than likely have an other she could make use of. Margaret smiled. A chance to meet new people, share her brilliant writing. This would be her 37th new group on Zoom.
Now for a change of tone. Clutching one another, they ambled, looking lost. Sad eyes darted here and there. Life-changing. Food, where? Nowhere. Living getting harder. Nowhere to call home. Disturbance everywhere, alien noise. No more natural sounds, just the buzz of machinery and chainsaws, not birds or bees. No damp forest beneath the floor, beneath their toes, just dry, scratchy sawdust underfoot. The orang-utan's world taken over by thoughtless greed. The ancient jungle with all its beauty disappearing fast. The flora and fauna lost and gone forever. Ecosystem unbalanced. Deforestation, catastrophe. Air pollution, catastrophe. Extinction, catastrophe. No more sad eyes, only dead ones. Their world plunder, canopy gone.
The car in front was going slow. It was okay. The limit here was 30. But frustration's height, a solid top of 25. A queue appearing behind. An open road, no parking here. Oncoming traffic, one by one. Does he not know? Oh, it was a woman.
Welcome, darkness. I recognize you,
but fear you no more. I love the adventurous polarity of, hello, here comes light. Loving the open road of possibilities created from all sorts, all equal. Disability, you frustrate me. Boots, help me walk away. No, you say? Boots, then kick, lost, stuck, into touch. Humour, kindness, and enough for me to enjoy time alone qualifies no belonging balance. I'm a social person of authenticity and love simply being out and about. Freedom to listen more, so speaking less. Tap into the opportunities, seeing all within creation as an adult playground, daring to be me. Well, we all hurt here and there, but stop and think before the unacceptable takes over. Learn from animals and nature. People are people. Life is life. Arrogance not needed. Relax and learn from all within creation.
You set your hopes up high and did your best to try. Then in yourself believe that in good time you'll receive what you aim to achieve. The goals that came your way along the future pathway. And as you have now grown with a mind up of your own, with hopes set up high, never saying die, when all is said and done, your achievements finally won, the rewards for your sacrifice received, because in yourself you believed. We all look back with pride and feel so good inside. And then I said, thank you so much for allowing me to experience the excitement of last week, especially in this year of lockdown isolation. Blue Nana. Lockdown is making us stir crazy. So important to talk to someone yet you trust. I was discussing this with my microwave and my toaster. I didn't mention it to the washing machine because she puts a different spin on everything. I couldn't share it with the fridge because he's been acting cold and distant. In the end, the iron straightened me out by saying, the situation isn't that pressing and all wrinkles will be ironed out. The vacuum cleaner was unsympathetic and told me to just suck it up. The fan was optimistic and gave me hope. It will blow over. It'll all blow over. The toilet looked flushed, but didn't say anything when I asked its opinion. And so the front doorknob then told me to get a grip on things. And guess what? The curtains told me to pull myself together, and that was all good advice.
Lockdown brings stress and puts things into perspective. A cuppa from the kitchen hatch where the watch kettle constantly boils, arguments about turns, unwritten washing up rotas and broken house rules, long forgotten, yet loyal as a lifetime is long, withstanding pollution, countless chemicals, carcinogens galore, they're never appreciated till they stop. Bright lights, white walls, ticking clocks, beeping monitors, never over till it all ends. Lockdown, same old. Well, for starters, how about choosing between Wi-Fi and heating? Ice cold body or isolated mentally? Kids who don't get wrapped presents, they get wrapped only in blankets. You might think that's better than nothing, ain't it? I'd say think back a minute when you were a kid, when you wore the shiny badge saying, my parents are poor, so I stand out from my peers. Not in a cool way. Sometimes you'll take the piss. It's all okay, fun making me feel so very less than. Okay, so not quite a badge or bumper sticker, maybe a pair of trainers that talk, say, the only thing I fear is a rubbish bin, or it's the smell of cheese on a damp day, it's everything they haven't got. It's painful being poor. Some say money is the root of all evil. Actually, don't you think it's being poor? And that's not the tip of the iceberg, or even a microscopic glimpse of how people are suffering. So you reading this on your smartphone, those rolling eyes or those hitting like or share with your friends, and whether or not those profiles are actually your friends, that's a whole other story. You read this with the eyes that see, lungs that breathe, sighing like, I'm bored, I can't believe I'm reading this random-ish. Yes, that's you. The soul struggling, still soldiering on with the fully working body and adequate shelter from this storm. I don't mean to sound offensive, but is it really that bad? Have you a life, income, home? Are you in a care home or street homeless, without a job, mourning a loved one's lost, unable to pay for funeral costs or even a bus, phone bill, pint of milk? In life, we all get wounded. You either extend an arm, provide plasters, or rub salt in the wound and continue to sabotage. We humans all suffer, but it's up to us to choose. Together, we can make it through these tough times. Lockdown brings stress and puts things into perspective.
I'd stay in one place with you sleeping on my lap, even if I needed to pee, just so I didn't wake you. I'd spend my spare money on buying you treats, just so I could see the joy in your face when I give you a pizzle. I'd lose sleep from you hogging the bed because you insist that's the most comfortable place in my leg nook, clutched in the middle. I'd stand in the cold, waiting for you to pee, even when it's raining, just so you weren't scared to be alone. I'd spend my last cash on buying your fancy dog food and live on beans on toast so you didn't know we were poor and you had your regular meals. So when you ask, would I get stabbed for my dog? I don't see a question, but I hope that I get to A&E in time.
Oh, Beard, you've been a part of me for so long. You've grown so big, you've grown so strong. Some people say it's about time, while others say it's just a crime. But you're all up there in my face, and you really should have learnt your place. If you weren't stuck there under my grill, maybe I can consider keeping you still. You were born because I was lazy, but this lockdown's really sent you crazy. But it's now time to tame the beast. Maybe I'll see my chin at least. Who knows what lies beneath you, what wrinkles may have grown to. But I really must be more brave. I have committed to this big shave. You've been my fashion, been my style, but now you just cover up my smile. I really think that you should know that it's past time for you to go. So goodbye, my furry facial friend. I'm sorry that this has to end. Maybe we'll meet again another day when my razor next goes astray.
The mountain is green, dark greens, light greens, and the ones in between. The sounds of birds chirping and peace surrounds. A time like this is what's in need. A small tent at the top of the greenery, the beautiful scenery to stare for a while. It's the ideal idea, one day to be, a peace in time, and a place to be.
I still remember my old sweet shop, the packets that lined the wooden counter. I would gaze at them every day, and then my eyes would linger to the jars of sweets standing tall and proud. What would I buy today for my journey into school? Would it be a cola or pineapple cube, or a sherbet pip or two? Maybe some sweet peanuts or chocolate limes that glowed bright green. I loved rhubarb and custard. No, I'll have a quarter of aniseed twist, please. So if you are a sweet tooth, I know you would like to see different sweets and chocolates on this counter with all the varieties served as treats. That some are still with us and others that have changed their name, recipes and ingredients that have stood the time and taste the same. My favourite packets were toffos. I chewed them when I was young. I loved the taste of spangles, fruit salads and refreshers, but I would never eat just one, well, maybe one packet. My mum, she loved a Bounty or maybe a Fry's chocolate cream. Turkish Delight was her favourite. Of Arabian Nights she would dream. Well, my brother, he always loved a wagon wheel with jam, biscuit and mallow. But since the 70s, they have shrunk down. Less wagon and more pram wheel, I think. Less thick and rather shallow. The box of chocolate Brazils never seemed to linger. In Nan's front room on the sideboard they sat. They always were a winner. I can name a few no longer made that were a tasty treat, such as Fry's 5 Boys, Bar 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and weekend chocolates we used to eat. Marathon became Snickers, Opal Fruits are now Starburst. They look the same and they still quench your thirst. My daughter, she loves Bourneville, Black Magic and dark chocolate as well. Emily loves After Eights, whilst my husband loves whole nut chocolate chunks. You can tell. There is so much selection that we can choose, such as Caramac, Walnut Whip and Mars Bar 2, a Milky Way, or maybe it's a cream egg for you. I really love a picnic, Smarties Kit Kat or fruit salad, but maybe a few minty pacers might be nice to freshen up my palate. I really have to go now before I buy up all the shop. It's easier said than done though, but I haven't enough money to buy up all the stock. I will be back tomorrow for my daily little treat, my quarter bags of sweeties to keep myself quite sweet.
Brave yellow trumpets pushing through your green, cut from your muddied field, determined to be seen, proclaiming your beauty, not loud, but straight and true, with dainty scent of promise that winter's almost through. You speak to me of courage when fate tears life away from paths that were expected and you no longer have your say. You tell me now's the moment to grasp, to live, to shine. However changed a life might be, it's there to live, it's mine. Mother's eyes tantalise and tease, sink into the softness she dares. Toes hover, damsel-like over steaming ooze. Resolve wanes slippering into warmth squeezing between. Come, let me envelop you, swallow your worries and woes, swing you high in estimation. Smooth caresses cajole and spread her legs all a tingle and tease, unfurling furrows as yet unharrowed. Exquisitely poised on the edge, lovely, isn't it? Words intrude, a shuddering of youth into worlds unknown. Eyes cast down and see feet ankle deep in cow shit.
Being single for my rest and peace with a date with a vampire. With being single means a lot to me and keeps making poetry that keeps me happier and smiling again. Share my thoughts to those I love to give my strength of loving art and sharing a bit of love. It wouldn't go amiss if I fell in love with a vampire, being rescued by one and whisk me up in the air. That is part of Valentine's Day.
The story begins with 3 special fine bone china cups, wide-brimmed and festooned with paeans in praise of tea. Be good to yourself, drink tea. Tea makes the world go round. In tea I trust. You get the picture. Then back in time to the 1930s. Seaforth in Liverpool on a crisp autumn afternoon. My father's parents are walking arm in arm through a narrow street lined with terraces of red brick houses. Children are playing in the street, some barefooted, swinging off lampposts, trundling along on go-karts, sitting on the curb playing jacks, skipping or playing hopscotch, and families are taking their afternoon promenade, dressed up in their Sunday best. The couple turn down a narrow lane leading to the beach. I follow, at a distance, for we are separated by time and space. Once at the beach, they spread a red tartan rug on the sand. They sit down, side by side, facing the sea in a spot not far from where, many years later, Anthony Gormley sights his cast-iron figures. They are life-sized, and they gaze out across the water, oblivious to the turning of the tides. My grandfather, Thomas, is a hazy figure, for he died years before I was born. I've only ever seen his likeness on one photograph, dressed in his army uniform, a full head of hair with a quiff just like my dad's, and a neatly trimmed moustache. His is a kindly face. I conjure him wearing a suit, a cloth cap, and a warm woolly scarf against the cold. His chest was damaged and weakened in the trenches in France, where he was gassed, just one more casualty of the war. He died young. My granny, Alice, is a much more defined figure, for I knew and loved her gentle spirit. She's tiny and rounded. Her fine brown hair is tightly coiled and wound round her head. She wears a soft felt hat and a warm woolen coat. She has lisle stockings on and shiny black shoes laced high with a stacked heel. The veins stand out on the back of her fine bone hands, and she wears a thin gold wedding ring. They're the hands of someone who has worked hard all her life. She's a cook in the local school for girls and has a family of 6 to look after. She has a wide smile and laughter lines round her eyes that at the moment are moist with tears. But these are tears of happiness, for they are watching Thomas's ship set sail without him. Thomas, like his father before him, is a master bricklayer. He is proud to have worked on Liverpool's overhead railway and on the famous dockside Liver building. But his proudest boast was that throughout the Depression he was never out of work. When the building trade faltered, he joined the Merchant Navy to feed his young family, but hated every minute away from home. Yesterday, he was taken on as a brickie, and today they are here to watch his ship passing as it slowly leaves port on the tide, leaving him behind forever. Alice lays her head on Thomas's shoulder, and he puts his arm around her. I am loath to break into such an intimate scene, but I have scalding hot tea in my special cups to share. I offer them each a cup, and then sit down beside them with mine. We cup our hands around the tea for warmth, for there is a nip in the air now. We sit, sipping the tea in companionable silence, until the ship disappears over the horizon and the stars begin to light the night sky.
Uncle Ernie wrote sermons for children. When I was 14, he tried to rape me. Next door his church, he'd sit in his study, retailing Presbyterian morality and keeping an eye on the pedigree Labrador puppies he was rearing to make ends meet. Carefully, he constructed a pen of wire netting to keep them in. Occasionally they'd escape. Then he'd jump up from his moral tracts and rush swearing down the garden path and beat the little beasts back within the pale. In sepia tints, he stands, still smiling, tall, bronze, blonde and very attractive to women. Think how much worse I'd be, June, if I weren't a minister in the bosom of the family. Great-uncle Ernie wrote sermons for children. When she was 14, he nearly raped my mother.
Wherever I am missed, I will be. Sometimes love just isn't enough to save what's precious in our hearts. Sometimes we have to do the unthinkable in certain situations, no matter what it costs. Sometimes the cost presents itself and the worst outcome is loss. It's Valentine's Day. There'll be no wilted roses in my Valentine's bouquet. No hooky thorns to prick my flesh. No scent of rose perfume sniffing my nose in forget-me-not Jose. There'll be no Valentine cards stuffed in my letterbox, adding to the mound on the floor to admire. No floral bouquet delivered to front door, nor dental floss knickers for my rear, my dear love. No pretty box tied with ribbons, no fishnet stockings keeping me in suspense. No basque of red lace, tantalizing embrace. The only thing quivering is the candle in the flame. Oh, I could moan and groan to tease my delights. Toss off those stilettos to make no resistance to fight. No, there'll be no Valentino riding his white horse. No romantic serenade, whispering I love yous across the table. But a string of unfinished symphonies, just me and my fantasies to embrace.